Imagine you are standing center stage under a blinding white spotlight. The auditorium is dark and silent except for the person standing opposite you. They are the director of this chaos. They know your lines better than you do. They scream accusations and twist your memories until you question your own sanity. They are waiting for the crescendo. They need you to yell back. They need you to defend yourself. They are begging for you to cry. This is the theater of conflict. For years, you have played your part perfectly. You gave them the anger and the tears they craved. You provided the emotional fuel that kept their fire burning. But today, the script has changed. Today, you are not a co-star in their drama. You are a prop. You are a stone. You look at them with eyes that convey absolutely nothing. Your face is a mask of boredom. When they hurl an insult, you offer a shrug. When they demand a reaction, you give them silence. You have become the gray rock. You are dull and uninteresting. Watch as their performance falls apart. Without your energy to feed on, they start to starve. Their voice cracks. Their logic fails. The power drains from them and flows back to you. By becoming an emotional void, you force the curtains to close on their manipulation. The hunter and the prey. Imagine a predator in the wild, a sleek and muscular hunter stalking through tall grass. Its entire biology is wired for one specific trigger: movement. The hunter does not chase the trees. It does not attack the boulders or the dirt beneath its paws. It ignores the landscape entirely because the landscape offers no sport and no sustenance. The hunter looks for the twitch of a muscle or the frantic darting of eyes. It looks for the prey that runs. In the complex jungle of human psychology, the dynamic remains strikingly similar. When we deal with high-conflict personalities or manipulators, we are often stepping into a primordial dance. You might think you are having a conversation about finances or household chores or a mistake at work. But underneath the surface words, a different game is being played. You are the prey, and they are the hunter. And just like the beast in the wild, they are starving for movement. They do not eat flesh. They eat emotion. They consume your reactions. Every time you defend yourself, you are feeding them. Every time you raise your voice to correct a lie, you are feeding them. Even when you cry or beg for understanding, you are providing a feast of emotional intensity. They do not care if the attention is positive or negative. To a starving creature, food is food. Your anger is as delicious to them as your adoration. It proves they exist. It proves they have power over you. It proves they can reach inside your chest and squeeze your heart until you react. This is where most people fail. We are taught that communication is the key to resolution. We believe that if we can just explain our side clearly enough, the other person will understand. We use logic. We use facts. We use empathy. But you cannot use logic with a predator that is hunting for emotional fuel. When you offer facts to a manipulator, you are merely giving them more surface area to attack. You are running through the open field hoping they will stop chasing you. But your running is exactly why they chase. So how do you escape a hunter that is faster and more aggressive than you? You do not outrun them. You do not outfight them. You disappear. You do not vanish physically, but you vanish emotionally. You undergo a transformation that renders you invisible to their predatory instincts. You become the most boring object in their world. You become a gray rock. The gray rock method is a psychological strategy that fundamentally alters the power dynamic. It is the art of becoming uninteresting. Think of a gray rock sitting on the side of a gravel road. It has no color to catch the eye. It has no shine. It offers no nourishment. If you kicked it, nothing would happen. It is dense and dull and utterly forgettable. This is the persona you must adopt when facing the emotional hunter. The goal is to deny them the one thing they crave, which is your reaction. When they provoke you with an insult, you do not counterattack. You do not gasp. You offer a non-committal acknowledgement. You say words like, "Okay," or "I see." You keep your voice in a narrow range. You strip away the cadence and the musicality of your natural speech. You become monotone. You become distinctively bland. This requires a tremendous amount of internal discipline. Inside your mind, you may be screaming. You may be furious at the injustice of their accusations. You may feel the urge to set the record straight, burning in your throat. But you must hold that energy behind a vault door. To the outside observer, you are checking the time, or looking at a piece of lint on your sweater. You are present physically, but your spirit has left the room. When you practice this, you are effectively severing the emotional connection. You are unplugging the supply line. The manipulator throws a spear and it hits a wall of indifference. They construct a dramatic crisis, and you respond with a shrug. You answer open questions with closed answers. If they ask you how your day was, you say it was fine. You do not offer details. You do not share stories. You do not ask them how their day was in return. You break the social contract of reciprocity because that contract has been weaponized against you. It is important to understand what will happen when you first attempt this. The hunter will not simply walk away. When the prey stops moving, the predator does not immediately lose interest. It becomes confused. It becomes agitated. It will poke the prey to see if it is truly dead or just pretending. In psychological terms, this is known as an extinction burst. The behavior you are trying to extinguish will spike in intensity before it burns out. They will try harder. They will say the one thing they know hurts you the most. They will escalate their drama to fever pitch. They are like a toddler who screams louder when the parent stops looking. They are desperately shaking the vending machine because their favorite snack is stuck. This is the most dangerous phase. If you break character now and react with emotion, you teach them that they just need to scream louder to get what they want. You reinforce the very behavior you are trying to stop. You must hold the line. You must remain the gray rock. Weather the storm with a face of granite. Eventually, the law of diminishing returns will set in. The energy they expend trying to provoke you will outweigh the satisfaction they get from your dull responses. They are seeking a thrill, and you are offering them boredom. They want a tennis match, and you are refusing to pick up the racket. This is not a passive defeat. It is an active siege. You are starving the siege army. You are protecting your inner peace by refusing to bring it out into the battlefield. You keep your vibrancy and your humor and your joy for the people who deserve it. You keep your light for those who want to share it rather than those who want to steal it. The gray rock method is a shield. It allows you to stay in the room without being consumed by the fire. It gives you the clarity to observe their behavior without being swept away by it. You start to see their manipulation not as a personal attack, but as a desperate flailing mechanism. You watch them cycle through their tricks like a magician whose act has gone stale. And because you are not reacting, you can finally see the exit. You are no longer the prey because you have removed yourself from the game. You have stepped off the stage of the theater of conflict. You are safe within the fortress of your own indifference. The hunter moves on not because they won, but because there is nothing here to eat. Thank you for listening to this segment on mastering your reactions. To ensure you do not miss the following chapters on psychological dynamics, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel now. The currency of reaction. In the vast and chaotic marketplace of human interaction, there is a singular commodity that outweighs gold. It is more addictive than any substance and more vital to the predator than bread or water. This commodity is your reaction. To understand the dynamics of control, you must first accept that your emotions are not merely feelings. In the eyes of a manipulator, they are currency. Every time you scream in frustration, you are paying a debt. Every time you weep in despair, you are handing over a fortune. Every time you vigorously defend your character against a baseless accusation, you are funding the very war being waged against you. This segment represents a fundamental shift in your understanding of conflict. We are moving away from the hunter and the prey dynamic by changing the nature of the prey itself. We are learning how to bankrupt the predator. We are discussing the deliberate cultivation of an emotional void, often referred to as becoming a gray rock. Consider the economy of a toxic interaction. The manipulator operates on a deficit. They possess an endless hunger for stimulation and validation. They cannot generate self-worth or emotional regulation internally, so they must extract it from the environment. You are the source. When they provoke you with an insult or a lie, they are essentially swiping a card at a terminal. They are waiting for the transaction to be approved. If you stay silent, the transaction is declined. If you explode, the transaction is approved. You have just transferred your energy into their account. The tragedy of this exchange is that the victim often believes they are fighting for truth. When you are accused of something you did not do, your instinct is to correct the record. You believe that if you can just explain yourself with enough clarity and enough passion, the other person will see the light. You imagine a moment where they pause and admit they were wrong. You are chasing a resolution that does not exist. The manipulator is not interested in the truth. The truth is boring. The truth is static. They are interested in the friction. They want the heat of the argument. They want the visual confirmation that they have the power to disrupt your peace. When you defend yourself, you are telling them that their opinion matters to you. You are validating their importance. You are feeding the beast. To master your reactions, you must stop viewing the interaction as a conversation and start viewing it as a transfer of assets. Your peace of mind is your wealth. Why would you give it away to someone who is trying to rob you? This brings us to the strategy of the gray rock. The name is evocative because it describes exactly what you must become in the eyes of the abuser. Imagine walking along a beach. There are millions of pebbles under your feet. Some are jagged and sharp. Some are colorful and catch the light. But most are simply gray. They are round and dull and textureless. You do not notice them. You do not pick them up. You do not kick them. You simply ignore them because they offer you nothing. They are uninteresting. Your goal is to become that pebble. You must become so unstimulating and so utterly boring that the predator loses their appetite. This is not about suppressing your emotions forever. It is about withholding them from the one person who does not deserve to see them. It is a strategic, emotional embargo. Implementation of this strategy requires immense discipline because it goes against your biological wiring. When you are attacked, your body prepares for fight or flight. Adrenaline floods your system. Your heart rate spikes. You have a physical compulsion to react. The gray rock method demands that you override this instinct. You must remain physically present but emotionally absent. When the manipulator tries to bait you with a dramatic statement, your response must be devoid of flavor. You do not argue. You do not defend. You do not explain. You use responses that are factual and brief. You say things like "I see" or "okay" or "that is your opinion." You deliver these lines with a monotone voice. You make no eye contact. You offer no facial expressions. You become a blank canvas upon which nothing can be projected. Think of it as starvation. The manipulator is looking for a meal of high drama. They want a steak dinner of rage or a dessert of tears. Instead, you offer them a plate of stale crackers. You give them nothing to chew on. You offer no resistance to push against and no soft spots to sink their teeth into. You are simply there. You are present, but you are not engaged. The immediate reaction from the manipulator will likely be confusion followed by rage. You must be prepared for this. In behavioral psychology, this is known as an extinction burst. When a behavior no longer yields the desired reward, the subject will try harder and with more intensity before they give up. If you stop feeding a stray cat, it will cry louder at the back door before it finally wanders away. When you first go gray, the manipulator will escalate. They will say the most hurtful things they can imagine. They will press every button they installed in you. They are frantically swiping the card trying to get the transaction to go through. They cannot believe that the currency has run dry. They will accuse you of being cold, or heartless, or arrogant. They will try to guilt you into a reaction. This is the most dangerous phase. If you break now and react, you have taught them that they just need to scream louder to get paid. You must hold the line. You must remain the gray rock. You must let their words wash over you like water over stone. The stone does not care about the water. The stone does not argue with the tide. It simply sits there heavy and immovable. It is important to understand that this is not a passive act. It requires an active and powerful will. You are not submitting. You are engaged in a siege. You are sitting inside your fortress with the gates barred, watching the enemy pace outside. You are safe inside your own mind. You are observing them rather than participating with them. This shift from participant to observer is the key to mastering your reactions. When you are in the thick of the drama, you are subjective. You feel the pain. But when you step back and observe the dynamic, you become objective. You start to see the manipulator not as a powerful monster, but as a predictable machine. You see the cycle. You see the bait. You see the desperation in their eyes when you refuse to play the game. Suddenly, the insults lose their sting. You realize that the things they say are not reflections of your worth, but tools they are using to pry open your wallet. If the tool does not work, they will drop it. As you persist in this state of being uninteresting, the dynamic shifts. The manipulator gets bored. This is the ultimate victory. They require fuel, and if you are a dry well, they must move on to find water elsewhere. They will gradually stop targeting you because the return on investment is too low. It takes too much energy to get a reaction out of you, so they will conserve their energy for an easier target. There is a profound freedom in being boring. In the context of a toxic relationship, being boring is a superpower. It is a cloak of invisibility. You preserve your energy for the things that matter in your life. You save your emotions for people who treat them with respect. You keep your currency in your own vault. By refusing to react, you are reclaiming your autonomy. You are stating with your silence that your inner world is off limits. You are establishing a boundary that cannot be crossed because it cannot even be seen. You are not fighting fire with fire, which only creates a larger blaze. You are fighting fire with oxygen deprivation. You are sucking the air out of the room until the flame flickers and dies. This is the currency of reaction. It is the most valuable thing you own. Do not spend it foolishly. Do not throw it into the pit of another person's dysfunction. Hoard it. Save it. Use it to build your own life. Become the gray rock. Become the void. And watch as the chaos moves around you, unable to find a foothold. You are no longer part of the theater. You have walked off the stage and the play cannot continue without you. Enter the gray rock. You have learned that your emotions are the currency of conflict. You have seen how the hunter sets the trap and waits for you to step into the circle of drama. You understand now that every time you defend yourself, every time you scream in frustration, and every time you weep in despair, you are paying the toll that keeps the relationship running. You are funding the very war that is being waged against you. The question then becomes how to close the bank. How do you exist in the presence of a person who feeds on your reaction without letting them consume you? The answer lies in a technique of profound psychological camouflage. It is not about fighting back, and it is not about running away. It is about becoming invisible in plain sight. We call this entering the gray rock. Imagine for a moment that you are walking down a gravel driveway. There are thousands of stones beneath your boots. They are dull, motionless, and identical. You do not stop to have a conversation with a specific pebble. You do not feel insulted if a rock is jagged. You do not feel praised if a rock is smooth. You simply walk over them because they offer you nothing. They possess no gravity. They capture no attention. They are part of the background scenery. To the manipulator, you have likely been the opposite of a rock. You have been a source of vibrant, chaotic color. You have been a neon sign flashing in the dark. When they poke you, you jump. When they insult you, you burn with righteousness. When they guilt you, you crumble. You have been interesting. You have been a challenge. You have been a reliable source of emotional sustenance. The gray rock method is the strategic choice to become uninteresting. It is the art of becoming as stimulating as a tax return or a damp wall. It is a state of voluntary dullness that renders the manipulator's tactics useless because there is nothing for their hooks to catch on to. This transformation requires a fundamental shift in your verbal and nonverbal presentation. In the past, a conversation with this person might have felt like a tennis match. They serve a ball of accusation at 90 miles per hour. You sprint to hit it back with a defense. They smash a return of gaslighting. You dive to keep the rally going with logic and reason. You are exhausted, sweating, and desperate to win a point. But they are just enjoying the game. When you become the gray rock, you drop the racket. They serve the ball and it sails past you. It hits the back fence and rolls to a stop. You do not chase it. You do not comment on it. You stand there, neutral and composed. The game cannot continue if only one person is playing. In practice, this means stripping your language of all emotional inflection. When they try to bait you with a comment that would usually trigger a fight, you respond with the absolute minimum. You use phrases that are polite but empty. I see. Okay. You are entitled to your opinion. I understand you feel that way. Notice that none of these responses offer fuel. There is no defense. There is no counterattack. There is no plea for understanding. You are not agreeing with their abuse, nor are you fighting it. You are simply acknowledging that they have spoken, and you are letting the sound of their voice die in the air. You must maintain a neutral facial expression. The manipulator is an expert at reading micro-expressions. They look for the tightening of your jaw, or the flare of your nostrils, or the tears welling in your eyes. These are signs that they have pierced your armor. You must deny them this data. You keep your voice monotone. You keep your eyes flat. You do not make prolonged eye contact, which can be seen as a challenge or an invitation for intimacy. You look at them with the same level of interest you would give to a piece of furniture. This is difficult. It goes against your instincts. When we are treated unjustly, our instinct is to correct the record. We want to prove we are good people. We want to make them understand. You must accept the hard truth that they do not want to understand. They want to engage. By explaining yourself, you are not clearing your name. You are simply giving them more ammunition to twist and fire back at you. When you stop providing fuel, you disrupt the established pattern of the relationship. You force a change in the ecosystem. But you must be warned that this transition is rarely smooth. In behavioral psychology, there is a concept known as an extinction burst. Think of a vending machine. For years, the manipulator has pushed a button on your chest and a soda has fallen out. They push the guilt button and they get an apology. They push the anger button and they get a fight. They have been trained to expect a reward. When you go gray rock, the machine stops working. They push the button and nothing happens. No soda comes out. A rational person might walk away and find another machine, but a manipulator does not accept that the machine is broken. They assume the button is stuck. They will push it harder. They will shake the machine. They will kick it. They will scream at it. This is the extinction burst. When you first withdraw your reactions, the abuse often escalates. They will try everything to get the old you back. They will say the most hurtful things they can imagine, because they know exactly where your wounds are. They will accuse you of being cold. They will say you are heartless. They might even switch tactics and suddenly become incredibly sweet, trying to lure you back out with warmth before snapping the trap shut again. You must anticipate this. You must view this escalation not as a failure of your strategy, but as proof that it is working. The vending machine is shaking because they are panicking. They are losing their supply. This is the storm you must weather. If you break character now, if you scream back even once, you teach them that they just need to shake the machine harder to get what they want. You reinforce the very behavior you are trying to extinguish. It helps to change your internal framing. Do not view yourself as a victim enduring an assault. View yourself as a scientist observing a specimen. When they begin to rage, you step back in your mind. You observe their behavior with clinical detachment. You note how they raise their voice. You note how they shift blame. You think to yourself that this is a fascinating display of primitive emotional regulation. By turning yourself into an observer, you create a psychological distance. You are no longer in the movie. You are watching it from the projection booth. You are safe behind the glass. The gray rock is not a permanent state of being for your entire life. It is a shield you pick up when you enter the arena and put down when you are safe. It is a specific tool for a specific type of predator. It allows you to conserve your energy. Think of how much vitality you have wasted trying to manage their moods. Think of the hours spent ruminating on what you should have said. Think of the anxiety that eats at your stomach. The gray rock method halts this drainage. By refusing to engage, you keep your power for yourself. You keep your secrets, your dreams, and your vulnerabilities locked away in a vault where they cannot be exploited. You become boring. You become dull. And eventually, the predator will have to look elsewhere for their meal. They need drama to survive. If you do not provide it, they will get bored. Boredom is kryptonite to a manipulator. They cannot stand the silence. They cannot stand the lack of reflection. As you master this, you will find a strange sense of power returning to you. You realize that you control the flow of the interaction. You are the one deciding that the game is over. You are not being passive. You are being the most active force in the room by refusing to be moved. You are the mountain. They are the wind. Let them howl. Let them blow. You do not move. You do not change. You remain solid, gray, and utterly impenetrable. This is how you reclaim your peace. This is how you starve the beast. You do it by becoming nothing to them, so that you can remain everything to yourself. The vocabulary of neutrality. In the lexicon of the manipulator language is not a tool for connection. It is a weapon system. Every word they speak is a grappling hook designed to latch onto your ego and pull you into the mud. We have discussed the theater of conflict, and we have identified the currency of reaction. Now we must open the manual of operations. We must learn the specific dialect of the uninteresting. We must master the vocabulary of neutrality. Most of us are conditioned to be interesting. From childhood, we are taught that good conversation involves engagement and emotional reciprocity. We are trained to elaborate and to share and to explain our inner worlds. When someone asks us a question, our instinct is to provide a complete answer. When someone accuses us of something, our instinct is to defend our honor. When someone is angry, our instinct is to soothe or to match their intensity. This instinct is exactly what the hunter relies upon. They are banking on your humanity. They are counting on your need to be understood. To master the gray rock method, you must fundamentally alter your relationship with language. You are no longer a storyteller. You are no longer a debater. You are a reporter of dry facts and a mirror of dullness. You must become a wall that echoes nothing back. The first rule of this new vocabulary is the elimination of the defensive posture. In psychological circles, there is an acronym known as JADE. It stands for Justify, Argue, Defend, and Explain. These are the 4 pillars of a victim's response. When you are under attack by an emotional vampire, your brain screams at you to do one of these 4 things. You want to justify your choices. You want to argue the facts. You want to defend your character. You want to explain your perspective so they will finally see the light. You must understand that the manipulator does not care about your justification. They do not care about the facts. They are not attacking your character because they believe the lie, but because they know it hurts you. And they certainly do not want your explanation, because clarity ruins their game. When you engage in these 4 behaviors, you are handing them ammunition. You are showing them exactly where your armor is weak. You are telling them what you value, so they can threaten it. Therefore, the vocabulary of neutrality begins with silence, where there used to be noise. When they demand to know why you made a certain decision, you do not offer a paragraph of reasoning. You simply state that it was the decision you made. The period at the end of that sentence must be heavy. It must be final. It is not a pause for breath. It is a full stop. Let us look at the specific words that build this fortress. The most powerful words in the Grey Rock Dictionary are the ones that offer 0 traction. Consider the phrase, "I see." When a manipulator throws a verbal barb intended to spark a 3-hour argument about your competence or your history, you do not counterattack. You do not cry. You simply say, "I see." This phrase is devastating to the toxic personality. It acknowledges that sound came out of their mouth, but it assigns no value to it. It is neither agreement nor disagreement. It is merely receipt. It is the verbal equivalent of signing for a package and leaving it in the hallway unopened. Another essential tool is the word "okay." Imagine the scenario. The antagonist is escalating. They are raising their voice and making wild accusations about your behavior. They are painting a reality that does not exist. Your heart rate is climbing. Adrenaline is flooding your system. You want to scream the truth. Instead, you breathe out and you say, "Okay." You say it with a flat affect. You do not say it with sarcasm. Sarcasm is an emotion, and emotion is fuel. You do not say it with resignation. Resignation implies you are defeated. You say it with the tone of someone reading a grocery list. You say it as if you are discussing the weather in a city you do not live in. By saying, "Okay," you are refusing to engage with their distorted reality. You are stepping off the stage. You must also purge your language of adjectives and adverbs. Descriptive words are the flavoring of speech. They reveal how we feel about the facts. If you say you are incredibly hurt by their cruel words, you have given them 2 gifts. You have told them they are powerful enough to hurt you, and you have told them you judge their behavior as cruel. This reinforces their dominance. In the vocabulary of neutrality, you strip the sentence to its bones. You do not say you are hurt. You say nothing. You do not call their words cruel. You simply look at them. If a response is absolutely forced, you stick to the most boring verifiable data possible. This brings us to the concept of the non-answer. The manipulator thrives on information. They mine your day and your thoughts for leverage. When they ask how your day was, they are not making small talk. They are looking for a crack. If you say you had a terrible meeting with your boss, they file that away to use later. They might say you are failing at work just like you fail at home. The non-answer prevents this. How was your day? It was fine. What did you do? I worked. Who did you talk to? The usual people. You are not hiding information in a way that suggests a secret. You are simply being uninteresting. You are making yourself as bland as a beige wall. There is nothing for the hook to catch. There is no friction. There is no heat. It is important to address the internal difficulty of this practice. Speaking this way feels unnatural. It feels like you are losing. When someone lies about you to your face, every fiber of your being wants to correct the record. You feel that if you stay silent, you are accepting their version of the truth. You worry that by not fighting back, you are being weak. This is an illusion. The manipulator relies on the fallacy that the loudest person wins. In reality, the person with the most self-control holds the power. By refusing to deliver the scripted lines of the victim, you are rewriting the play. You are not submitting. You are engaging in a strategic withdrawal of resources. You are cutting the supply line. Think of it as a business transaction. The manipulator is trying to buy your emotional upheaval. They are offering insults and guilt trips as payment. If you refuse to sell, the transaction fails. They are left holding their toxic currency with nowhere to spend it. Your tone of voice is just as important as your word choice. We often betray ourselves through pitch and speed. When we are anxious, we speak faster. When we are defensive, our pitch rises. You must consciously drop your voice into the chest. You must slow your cadence. You must introduce pauses that are slightly too long. These pauses serve a purpose. They force the manipulator to sit in the silence they created. Usually they fill that silence with more nonsense because they are uncomfortable. Let them. Let them exhaust themselves running against the wall of your silence. There will be times when they try to bait you by mocking your new behavior. They might ask why you are being so quiet. They might accuse you of being cold or distant. They are poking the gray rock to see if it bleeds. Here, you must rely on the vocabulary of neutrality once again. Do not explain the method. Do not tell them you are gray rocking them. That is a declaration of war, and it is emotional. Instead, you offer a bland non-explanation. I am just tired. I have a lot on my mind. I am listening. These phrases are shields. They are unassailable. No one can prove you are not tired. No one can prove you are not thinking. You are giving them nothing to fight against. As you practice this new language, you will notice a shift in the dynamic. The hunter will become confused. They will ramp up their efforts initially. This is called an extinction burst. Like a toddler throwing a tantrum when a parent stops responding to screaming, they will try harder to get the reaction they crave. They will say the most hurtful things they can imagine. This is the critical moment. This is where your vocabulary must remain absolute. If you break character now, you teach them that they just need to scream louder to get what they want. You must hold the line. You must persist with "I see," and that is your opinion, and I have nothing to add. Eventually, the predator must move on. A predator cannot hunt where there is no prey. If they cannot get a rise out of you, they will get bored. Boredom is kryptonite to the toxic personality. They need drama to feel alive. If you refuse to be a character in their drama, they will eventually cast someone else. Mastering this vocabulary is not about suppressing your emotions forever. It is about safeguarding them. You save your laughter and your tears and your passionate explanations for the people who have earned them. You save your vulnerability for safe harbors. For the manipulator, you have only the gray, smooth surface of the stone. You have the vocabulary of the void. You are present, but you are unreachable. You are polite, but you are vacant. You are the master of the reaction, because you have chosen not to react. In the next segment, we will discuss how to maintain this state over the long term without losing your own sense of self. We will explore the internal mental structures necessary to keep the gray rock from cracking under pressure. But for now, practice your lines. I see. Okay, you are entitled to your opinion. The script is yours to write. Keep it short, keep it boring, keep it safe. The mask of boredom. You have learned the vocabulary of neutrality. You know the words to speak and the phrases to withhold. But words are only half the battle. A truly skilled emotional predator reads more than just your sentences. They read your eyes. They read the tension in your jaw. They read the pacing of your breath. If your mouth says, "I have no opinion," but your hands are clenched in white-knuckled rage, they know they still have you. They know the fire is still burning inside, and they will keep poking until you explode. To truly master the gray rock method, you must adopt a physical persona that matches your verbal neutrality. This brings us to the most critical performance of your life. We call this the mask of boredom. Imagine for a moment that you are a stone in the middle of a rushing river. The water crashes against you. It foams and roars. It tries to push you downstream. But the stone does not scream back at the water. It does not try to convince the water to be calm. It simply sits there. It is heavy. It is still. It is uninteresting. Eventually, the water flows around it because it has no other choice. This is the essence of the mask of boredom. It is not an act of ignoring the person, which can be interpreted as an aggressive silence. Passive aggression is still aggression, and aggression is fuel. Instead, the mask of boredom is an act of presence without engagement. You are there, but you are not involved. You are a background character in their dramatic play, a piece of furniture that offers no plot twists and no climax. The manipulator is an addict. Their drug of choice is emotional arousal. They crave the dopamine hit that comes from seeing you react. It does not matter if you cry, scream, plead, or defend yourself. To them, all these reactions are proof of their power. They prove that they matter. They prove that they can control your internal state. When you deny them this reaction, you are not just being quiet. You are cutting off their supply. You are starving them. Constructing the mask requires deliberate physical control. Start with your face. Most of us are conditioned to mirror the emotions of the people we are talking to. If someone smiles, we smile. If they frown, we look concerned. If they yell, we look frightened or angry. You must break this mirror. When the manipulator approaches you with high energy, you must meet them with low energy. Soften your focus. Do not stare them down, as staring is a challenge. Do not look away entirely, as looking away signals fear or evasion. Look at the bridge of their nose or a spot on their forehead. Keep your facial muscles relaxed to the point of sagging. This is not a frown. A frown takes effort. This is the face you make when you are watching a television show that you have seen 1,000 times. You know the ending. You are not surprised. You are merely passing time. Your body language must follow suit. When we are attacked, our instinct is to tense up. We cross our arms to protect our vital organs. We lean forward to fight or lean back to flee. The mask of boredom requires you to do neither. You must be non-threatening and non-threatened. Keep your hands loose. If you are standing, shift your weight comfortably. If you are sitting, lean back slightly, not in fear, but in relaxation. This physical dullness sends a powerful signal to the chaotic mind of the antagonist. It tells them that their chaos is not contagious. It tells them that their urgent crisis is not your emergency. Let us walk through a scenario. The antagonist enters the room. They are looking for a fight. They launch into a tirade about your past mistakes, your character flaws, or a fabricated slight. They are waving their hands. Their voice is rising. They are casting the bait, hoping you will bite. In the past, your heart would race. You would jump in to correct the record. You would try to explain that you did not do what they are accusing you of. Now, you wear the mask. You listen, or appear to listen. You do not interrupt. You let the wave crash. When they finally stop to take a breath, waiting for your explosion, you give them nothing. You might look briefly at your watch. You might pick a piece of lint off your sleeve. Then, you deliver one of your neutral phrases in a monotone voice. You say simply that you hear what they are saying. There is no sarcasm. Sarcasm is an emotion. Sarcasm is a hidden knife, and they will see the glint of the blade. There must be no edge to your voice. It must be as flat as a dial tone. This is incredibly difficult to do. Inside, Your biology is screaming. Your adrenaline is pumping. You want to defend your honor. You want to scream the truth. But you must understand that in this dynamic, the truth does not matter to them. The reaction matters. You are sacrificing the short-term satisfaction of being right for the long-term victory of freedom. When you first apply the mask of boredom, you must be prepared for what behavioral psychologists call an extinction burst. Think of a toddler pressing a button on a toy. Every time they press the button, the toy lights up and makes a noise. They love this. Then, one day, the battery dies. They press the button. Nothing happens. What does the toddler do? Do they immediately walk away? No. They press the button again. They press it harder. They press it faster. They might smash the toy against the ground. They scream. They escalate their behavior because they cannot believe the mechanism has stopped working. The manipulator will do the same. When you first become a gray rock, when you first wear the mask, they will not simply give up. They will try harder. They will say the most hurtful things they can imagine. They will target your deepest insecurities. They will try to induce guilt, fear, and obligation. They are frantically pressing the button, trying to get the light to turn on. This is the danger zone. This is where most people fail. They hold the mask for 5 minutes, but then the manipulator says something truly vile, and the mask slips. You snap back, you cry, you yell, and in that moment, the manipulator smiles internally. The button worked. It just required a harder push. Now they know that the next time they want a reaction, they have to start at this new, higher level of intensity. You must hold the line. You must understand that this escalation is not a sign of your failure. It is a sign of your success. It means the boredom is working. It means they are panicking because they are losing control. You must remain beige. You must remain dull. You must remain unyieldingly uninteresting. Focus on the physical sensation of your feet on the floor. Count the number of tiles on the ceiling. Recite the alphabet backward in your head. Do whatever mental gymnastics you need to do to detach yourself from the emotional heat of the moment. You are an anthropologist observing a specimen in the wild. You are watching a storm from behind thick glass. Eventually, the energy runs out. A fire cannot burn without oxygen. A manipulator cannot sustain a high conflict state without a partner. When they realize that the button is truly broken, that no amount of screaming or guilt tripping will produce the emotional currency they need, they will stop. They will feel a sense of profound disappointment. They might call you boring. They might say you have changed. They might say you are cold or heartless. Accept these labels. Wear them like armor. If being boring means being free from abuse, then boring is the most exciting thing you can be. If being cold means you are no longer being burned, then embrace the frost. The mask of boredom is not about suppressing your emotions forever. You are human. You have a right to feel anger, sadness, and joy, but you must choose where you spend those expensive emotions. You do not spend them on a person who uses them against you. You save them for people who respect you. You save them for safe places. When the interaction is over and the manipulator leaves the room in search of a softer target, you can take off the mask. You can shake out the tension. You can write in a journal or vent to a trusted friend. But while you are in the theater of conflict, the mask stays on. By mastering this lack of affect, you reclaim your autonomy. You stop being a puppet that dances whenever they pull the strings. You cut the strings. You stand on your own 2 feet, silent and strong. You become the gray rock, and the river of their chaos flows past you, leaving you untouched, unmoved, and finally, free. The extinction burst. You have perfected the mask. You have dulled your eyes and flattened your voice. You have become a rock in a stormy sea. You might think the battle is won. You might think the manipulator will look at your unyielding surface and simply walk away. You would be wrong. This is the moment of greatest danger. This is where the silence becomes heavy. In psychology, this phenomenon has a name. It is called the extinction burst. It sounds technical, but the reality is visceral. It is the final, desperate scream of a dying dynamic. Imagine a vending machine. You put your money in. You press the button. Nothing happens. You do not simply walk away. You press the button again. You press it harder. You might even shake the machine. You kick it. You curse at it. Why? Because you expect a result. You have been trained to expect a reward for your action. When the reward is withheld, you do not accept the new reality immediately. You escalate your effort to force the old reality back into existence. The manipulator is that person at the vending machine. You are the machine. For years, or perhaps decades, they have pressed your buttons, and you have delivered the goods. You gave them anger. You gave them tears. You gave them defense. You gave them the emotional currency they crave. Now you have stopped. You have cut the supply. Do not expect them to accept this gracefully. They will not think that you have suddenly become boring. At least, not yet. First, they will think the machine is broken, and they will try to fix it with a sledgehammer. The extinction burst is an escalation of tactics. It is a rapid and chaotic switching of strategies designed to find the crack in your armor. It is essential that you understand this is not a sign of failure. It is actually the most potent sign of success. It means the gray rock method is working. It means they are starving. They will start small. They might ask why you are so quiet. They will feign concern. They will ask if you are sick or depressed. They are checking the wiring. If you do not respond with a flow of information, they will switch gears. They will try provocation. They will bring up topics they know are radioactive to you. They will mention past failures. They will insult your friends or your family. They will rewrite history in front of your face, just to see if you will jump in to correct them. They are throwing stones at the rock to see if it bleeds. If insults fail, they may try charm. This is the most insidious phase of the burst. They will suddenly become the person you always wanted them to be. They will offer gifts. They will offer apologies. They will recall fond memories. This is known as hoovering. They are trying to suck you back into the cycle. But notice the timing. This benevolence only appeared when their control was threatened. It is not a change of heart. It is a change of tactic. When charm fails, the rage will return, but it will be amplified. They may yell. They may threaten to leave. They may threaten to fire you. They may spread rumors about you to others, hoping the social pressure will force you to break your silence. This is the peak of the burst. The noise will be deafening. The emotional pressure will feel physical. Your instinct will be to defend yourself. Every fiber of your being will scream at you to speak. You will want to correct the lies. You will want to accept the apology. You will want to scream back. You must not. This is the crucible. If you speak now, you lose everything. Let us look at the mechanics of why breaking silence during an extinction burst is catastrophic. In behavioral science, there is a concept called intermittent reinforcement. It is the most powerful way to establish a habit. If a slot machine paid out every time you pulled the handle, you would get bored. But because it pays out unpredictably, you keep pulling. You are addicted to the possibility of the reward. If you hold your ground for 3 days of screaming and then finally snap on the 4th day, you have not taught the manipulator to stop. You have taught them that the price of your reaction is 4 days of screaming. You have just reset the game on a much harder difficulty setting. You have shown them that you can be broken if they just push hard enough and long enough. Next time they will not start with a whisper. They will start with the 4-day level of screaming because they know that is what it takes to get a rise out of you. You have reinforced the very behavior you are trying to extinguish. So how do you survive the burst? You must dissociate from the immediate emotional impact. You are an observer. You are watching a storm from behind thick glass. The wind is howling, and the rain is lashing against the window, but you are dry. You are safe. When they escalate their attacks, visualize the toddler having a tantrum in the grocery store aisle. The toddler screams because they want the candy bar. If the parent buys the candy bar to stop the screaming, the toddler learns that screaming works. The parent must stand still. They must wait. They must endure the embarrassment and the noise until the toddler realizes that the strategy is futile. The manipulator is acting out a primal script. They are panicking because their sense of control is evaporating. Their escalation is not a display of power. It is a display of powerlessness. They are exhausting their arsenal. You must remain consistent. Your responses must remain dull. Okay, I see. You are entitled to your opinion. I have nothing to say to that. Do not let your tone rise. Do not let your body language become aggressive. Keep your hands relaxed. Keep your breathing slow. The moment you show tension, they see a crack. They will focus all their energy on that crack. This phase is exhausting. You will feel a tremendous urge to justify yourself. You will feel the injustice of their accusations burning inside you. Write it down if you must. Speak to a therapist. Vent to a trusted friend who understands the strategy. But do not give a single drop of that emotion to the person standing in front of you. The extinction burst has a limited lifespan. No one can maintain that level of high-intensity energy forever. It is physically and mentally draining for them too. If the vending machine never drops the candy, eventually they stop kicking it. They might kick it one last time out of spite and then walk away. That moment is the victory. When the burst ends, there will be a shift. The relationship will change fundamental shape. The manipulator may discard you and move on to a new source of supply. They may settle into a distant coexistence where they leave you alone because you are no longer fun. Or, in rare cases, they may actually adjust their behavior because the old tricks simply do not work anymore. Regardless of the outcome, you have reclaimed your sovereignty. You have proven to yourself that your buttons cannot be pushed. You have taken the controls back. The extinction burst is the storm before the calm. It is loud, and it is frightening, and it is designed to break you. But it is also temporary. It is a mathematical inevitability of changing a behavior pattern. Expect it. Prepare for it. When the accusations fly and the guilt trips begin, and the rage boils over, tell yourself the truth. This is the burst. This is the evidence that I am winning. This is the sound of their control dying. Hold the line. Be the gray rock. Let the storm rage around you until it runs out of wind. And it will run out of wind. The laws of behavior guarantee it. If you do not feed it, it will starve. The silence that follows the burst is the silence of freedom. It is the space where you can finally begin to rebuild your peace. The digital void. The battleground shifts. It moves from the living room to the silent glowing screen in the palm of your hand. We have discussed how to maintain the mask of boredom when you are standing face to face with a high conflict personality. You know how to steady your breathing and how to dull your eyes. But the modern manipulator has a weapon that bypasses physical proximity. They have a direct line to your pocket. This segment concerns the digital void. It is about how to apply the gray rock method to the texts, emails, and calls that invade your peace when you are physically alone. The dynamics of digital communication are treacherous. In the physical world, silence is heavy. It has a weight that both parties feel. When you do not respond to a baiting question in person, the air in the room changes. But in the digital realm, silence is ambiguous. The manipulator thrives on this ambiguity. They send a message. They wait. They see the notification that you have read it. They see the 3 dancing dots that indicate you are typing. They are hunting for a hit of dopamine, and your phone is the dispenser. Your objective here is to turn that device from a source of anxiety into a fortress of solitude. You must extend the emotional void into the digital infrastructure of your life. The first rule of the digital void is the elimination of immediacy. We live in a culture that demands instant responses. We are trained to treat a vibrating phone as a command. When the manipulator messages you, they rely on this conditioning. They expect you to pick up. They expect you to defend yourself instantly against the accusation they just hurled across the network. You must break this conditioning. When a message arrives, your first action is to do absolutely nothing. Do not unlock the phone. Do not clear the notification. Let it sit. This is the practice of latency. You are introducing a deliberate lag into the system. The manipulator feeds on the rhythm of rapid-fire conflict. Texting allows them to bypass their own impulse control. They can bombard you with 10 messages in 60 seconds. If you reply to even one of them, you have entered their tempo. You have stepped onto their treadmill. By waiting, you disrupt their feedback loop. If you wait an hour, or 3 hours, or a full day before responding, you strip the interaction of its emotional urgency. You are signaling that they are not an emergency. You are demonstrating that they do not command your attention. This delay gives you a tactical advantage. It allows your own cortisol levels to drop. It allows you to read their words not as a personal attack, but as clinical data. You can look at the screen and see the manipulation for what it is, without the heat of the moment. When you finally choose to respond, you must apply the same rigor to your typing that you apply to your speech. Digital communication is often informal and emotive. We use exclamation points and emojis to soften our tone or to convey sarcasm. You must strip your digital language of all decoration. A gray rock text message contains no emotion. It contains no emojis. It contains no unnecessary punctuation. Imagine you receive a paragraph of text accusing you of being selfish, listing your past mistakes, and demanding an apology. The old version of you would write back a paragraph in defense. You would explain your side. You would correct their lies. This is fuel. This is the currency of reaction we discussed earlier. The gray rock response to a wall of text is silence. If a response is absolutely necessary for logistical reasons, perhaps regarding shared finances or childcare, you extract the only relevant fact and address that alone. You ignore the insults entirely. If they ask what time you are picking up the children and in the same message call you incompetent, you reply only with the time. 6:00. You do not address the insult. You do not defend your competence. You simply state the fact. This sterility is painful for the manipulator. They want a fight. They want you to type in all capital letters. They want the drama of a digital argument. When you send back a dry, factual sentence, it is like handing them a handful of dust. It gives them nothing to work with. There is no hook for them to grab onto. You must also beware of the trap of explanation. In text messages, we often feel the need to over-explain to ensure we are not misunderstood. We want to be clear. But with a manipulator, your clarity is not their goal. They are committed to misunderstanding you. Every extra word you type is another surface area they can attack. Keep your messages brief, keep them informative, keep them firm, and keep them exceedingly dull. There is a specific danger in the digital realm known as the urgency trap. The manipulator will manufacture emergencies. They will demand an answer right now. They will say they need to know immediately or else something terrible will happen. Unless it involves a genuine threat to life or limb, this is almost always a fabrication designed to break your gray rock resolve. They know that if they create panic, you will drop your shield. You must recognize this urgency as artificial. It is a puppet string. Do not dance. Take a breath. Assess the reality of the situation. Is the house actually on fire? If not, the response can wait. By refusing to rush, you assert your autonomy. You prove to yourself and to them that you operate on your own timeline. We must also address the public arena of social media. This is the theater of conflict expanded to a global stage. The manipulator may try to bait you in public comments. They may post passive-aggressive updates clearly aimed at you. They are casting a line into the water, hoping you will bite in front of an audience. The gray rock method here is absolute invisibility. You do not comment. You do not like. You do not react with an angry face. You do not post a vague defense on your own wall. You pretend the bait does not exist. If they comment on your photo with a backhanded compliment, you leave it there, or you delete it silently. You do not engage. Engagement validates their effort. It shows them they can still reach you. You might be tempted to block them entirely. In many cases, this is the healthiest option. However, in some high-conflict situations, blocking can be interpreted as a strong emotional reaction. It signals that they have gotten under your skin. If you cannot block them for legal or familial reasons, you utilize the mute function. You silence their notifications. You restrict their access to your digital life without giving them the satisfaction of knowing you pressed the block button. You turn them into a ghost. They are shouting into a void, and you are not even listening. The most difficult part of the digital void is the internal discipline it requires. The phone is addictive. When we are in conflict, we check it obsessively. We look for their name. We reread old messages. We analyze their words for hidden meanings. This is self-inflicted damage. You are drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. To master the digital void, you must reclaim your device. You must curate your digital environment so that it serves you, not the manipulator. Change the name of the contact in your phone to something neutral. Do not use their name. Label them simply as Mechanic or Person A. Remove their photo. When they call or text, you want to see a generic label, not a face that triggers an emotional flashback. You are creating a buffer zone, a space where their influence cannot penetrate. When you master this, the phone ceases to be a leash. It becomes a tool again. You decide when to look. You decide when to speak. You decide when to engage. And most of the time, you decide to remain in the void. This silence you cultivate is not passive. It is an active, powerful force. It is the sound of a door closing and locking. It is the sound of you taking back your peace of mind. In the digital world, your attention is the only currency that matters. When you withhold it, you bankrupt the manipulator. You leave them staring at a screen that refuses to light up. You leave them alone with their own chaotic energy, while you place your phone face down and walk back into the real world. The internal sanctuary. We have established the perimeter. You have learned to mute your face and flatten your voice. You have weathered the storm of the extinction burst and navigated the silence of the digital void. Now we arrive at the most critical paradox of this entire philosophy. To successfully embody the gray rock, you must seem empty to the outside world while remaining fiercely alive within your own. This brings us to the internal sanctuary. Many people misunderstand the method. They believe that to become the gray rock means to kill their own emotions or to become a doormat. They think it requires a form of spiritual suicide where you cease to care about anything at all. This is a dangerous misconception. If you suppress your true self without a strategy, you risk falling into a state of learned helplessness or deep depression. You cannot simply turn off your humanity. The goal is not to become a stone. The goal is to become a vault. The exterior is cold and impenetrable steel, but the interior holds the gold of your personality, your joy, and your sanity. The internal sanctuary is the mental space where you retreat while the engagement is happening. It is how you survive the performance without believing the role you are playing. Imagine for a moment that you are a deep sea diver. The pressure outside is immense. The environment is hostile, and the creatures circling you are predatory. But you are inside a diving bell. The glass is thick. The air inside is clean and regulated. You can see the sharks thrashing against the glass. You can see their teeth and their frenetic energy. But you are not wet. You are not bitten. You are merely watching. This is the psychological stance you must take when the manipulator stands in front of you. When they launch their verbal assaults or weave their chaotic narratives, you do not absorb the words. You observe them. This is the shift from participant to scientist. In your internal sanctuary, you are conducting a study. When the person raises their voice, you do not trigger your fight or flight response. Instead, you lean back in your mental chair and take notes. You say to yourself, "Look at how they escalate when I do not respond." Notice the change in their tone. Observe how they are cycling through the list of insecurities they know I have. By narrating the event in your mind as it happens, you detach your identity from their attack. You create a buffer of cognitive distance. They are no longer a giant towering over you. They are a specimen behaving exactly as their nature dictates. This clinical detachment is the furniture of your sanctuary. It is crucial to understand that your lack of reaction is not passivity. It is an active and powerful choice. It takes more strength to hold a shield steady than to swing a sword wildly. Inside your sanctuary, you are constantly affirming your reality. When they lie, you silently correct the record in your mind. You do not speak it aloud, because that would give them fuel, but you speak it to yourself. You say, "That is not what happened. I remember the truth. I am grounded in reality." This internal monologue keeps you from gaslighting yourself. It prevents their distorted version of the world from overwriting your own memory. There is a specific visualization that aids this process. Imagine that every insult or manipulation attempt is a dark arrow shot in your direction. If you are standing there defenseless, the arrow hits your skin and the poison enters your blood. You feel the sting and you react with pain, which is exactly what the archer wants. Now imagine the sanctuary. You are behind a pane of one-way glass. The arrow hits the glass with a dull thud and falls harmlessly to the floor. You look at the arrow lying there. You can analyze the craftsmanship of the arrow. You can see the intent behind the shot, but you do not feel the point. You are safe behind the barrier. This mental separation preserves your energy. The manipulator thrives on the transfer of emotion. They want to dump their chaos into you and take your stability in return. By refusing to open the door to your sanctuary, you break this circuit. You keep your stability. They are left holding their own chaos. However, you must be careful. Building this sanctuary requires maintenance. You cannot live behind the glass forever, or you will become isolated from the good people in your life as well. The sanctuary is a specific tool for a specific threat. It is a bunker for the war zone, not a home for peacetime. Once the interaction is over, and you are physically away from the manipulator, you must step out of the sanctuary and process the emotions you stored away. This is a step many miss. During the encounter, you delayed your reaction. You did not suppress it permanently, you simply rescheduled it. If you do not process the adrenaline and the hurt, later it will rot inside the walls of your sanctuary. You must find a safe outlet. This might be vigorous exercise to burn off the cortisol. It might be writing in a journal that no one else reads. It might be speaking to a trusted friend or a therapist who understands the dynamic. In those moments of safety, you are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to weep. You are allowed to be exhausted. You validate the feelings that you had to hide. You tell yourself that it was painful and that it was unfair. By acknowledging the reality of the abuse in a safe environment, you prevent it from festering. Then, you clean the sanctuary. You sweep out the debris of the encounter. You remind yourself that their words do not define your worth. You reset the locks. You polish the glass. You prepare for the next time, knowing that you have a place of refuge that they cannot touch. The ultimate power of the internal sanctuary is that it restores your sense of agency. The manipulator believes they are pulling your strings. They think that because you are quiet, they have dominated you. They mistake your silence for submission. But you know the truth. You know that high above the theater of conflict in your private observation deck, you are the one in control. You are choosing when to engage and when to withdraw. You are choosing to starve the fire rather than feed it. This is the secret life of the gray rock. It is not a life of dullness. It is a life of disciplined conservation. It is the practice of saving your best self for the people and the pursuits that deserve it, while offering nothing but a sleek, ungraspable surface to those who would drain you dry. As you master this internal state, you will find that the manipulator's presence becomes less terrifying and more predictable. They become less of a monster and more of a nuisance. Their power relies on your fear and your reaction. When you watch them from the sanctuary, you see them for what they really are: small, repetitive, and ultimately powerless against a mind that refuses to be breached. You have built the walls. You have reinforced the glass. You have the key. Stay safe inside until the storm passes, and remember that the sanctuary is yours alone. It is the one place where their influence ends and your freedom begins. The starvation of the beast. You have arrived at the pivotal chapter of this transformation. We have discussed the mechanics of neutrality and the mask of boredom, but now we must address the long game. This is where the strategy shifts from a momentary tactic to a permanent state of existence. We call this phase the starvation of the beast. To understand this concept, you must first fully accept the nature of the entity you are dealing with. Whether this person is a partner or a parent or a colleague, they operate on a very specific biological imperative. They are emotional predators. In the natural world, a predator hunts for calories. The wolf chases the deer to sustain its physical body. But in the theater of psychological manipulation, the currency is not flesh and bone. It is emotional intensity. The beast feeds on your adrenaline. It drinks your tears, and it feasts on your rage. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a psychological reality. When you scream in frustration, you are serving a banquet. When you plead for understanding, you are offering a fine vintage. Even when you defend yourself with logic and facts, you are engaging in the dance of conflict, and that engagement is the very sustenance the beast requires to survive. For years, or perhaps decades, you have been the primary provider for this insatiable hunger. You have kept the beast fed. You believed that if you just explained yourself clearly enough, or if you loved hard enough, the beast would be satisfied and eventually lie down to sleep. But this type of hunger has no bottom. It is a metabolic fire that burns everything you throw into it and demands more. The only way to stop the consumption is not to change the quality of the food, but to cut off the supply entirely. You must enact a famine. The starvation process begins the moment you commit to the gray rock method, not as a shield, but as a lifestyle. You stop throwing wood onto the fire. At first, the change is subtle. You offer the bland responses we discussed. You engage with the emotional weight of a fax machine. You become uninteresting. You become boring. To a normal person, boredom is just a passing state. To a high-conflict personality, boredom is agony. It is a form of psychological suffocation. When they cannot elicit a reaction from you, they feel their sense of self beginning to wither. This is where you must hold your ground with the most discipline. When the food supply is cut off, the beast does not simply walk away immediately. It gets desperate. It will pace the perimeter of your psyche looking for a crack in the wall. They will try to bait you with old triggers. They will accuse you of being cold, or heartless, or mentally unstable. They will project their own flaws onto you with breathtaking audacity. In the past, this would have sparked a wildfire of defensiveness in you. You would have rushed to correct the record. You would have poured fresh fuel onto the embers. But now you see it differently. You are watching a starving creature rattle the bars of a cage. You are not a participant. You are an observer. When they launch an insult, you do not feel the sting of the words. You see the mechanics of the hunger. You realize that the insult is not a statement of truth, but a fishing expedition. They are casting a line into the water, hoping you will bite. If you bite, they eat. If you do not bite, they starve. The process of starvation is not passive. It requires an active and muscular restraint. There will be moments when the urge to react feels physical. Your heart will race, and your throat will tighten. You will want to scream the truth to shut them down. But you must remember that the truth has no power here. The beast does not care about facts. It only cares about friction. Silence creates no friction. Neutrality offers no traction. By refusing to engage, you are denying them the surface area they need to attach to you. As the famine stretches on, you will notice a shift in the power dynamic. The figure who once loomed over your life like a titan begins to shrink. Without your fear to inflate them, they become human-sized. Without your anger to validate them, they become mundane. You begin to see them not as monsters, but as pathetic addicts searching for a fix that you no longer supply. The glamour fades. The intimidation evaporates. You are left looking at a person who is frantically pressing buttons on a remote control that no longer connects to the TV. This is the most dangerous phase for you, because pity is a trap. You may see them struggling with this new lack of supply and feel a pang of guilt. You might think that giving them just a little bit of emotion, a small argument, or a tiny concession will be harmless. You must crush this impulse. Partial starvation does not work. If you feed a stray animal, once it will return to your doorstep every night for a month. If you give the manipulator a single emotional reaction after weeks of silence, you have taught them that persistence pays off. You have taught them that if they just push hard enough and long enough, you will eventually break. You reset the clock to 0. The starvation must be absolute. It must be total. You are becoming a desert where nothing grows. You are a land of drought. There is no water here for them. There is no shade. There is only the dry, cracked earth of your indifference. Eventually, the biological imperative that drives them will force a decision. A predator cannot hunt in a desolate wasteland forever. They must conserve energy. They must find easier prey. This is the ultimate goal of the starvation of the beast. It is not to change them because they cannot change. It is not to defeat them because they are playing a game that has no winner. The goal is to make yourself utterly useless to them. You want them to look at you and see nothing of value. You want them to scan your face for a micro-expression of pain and find only a blank slate. You want to become the gray rock in a field of colorful flowers so that their eye naturally passes over you in search of something more vibrant. When the beast finally realizes that the well is truly dry, the dynamic ends. They will discard you. They will move on to a new source of supply, someone who has not yet learned these lessons. They may leave physically, or they may simply check out emotionally while remaining in the same house. In either case, you have reclaimed your territory. You have reclaimed your nervous system. The silence that follows the starvation is not empty. It is heavy with peace. It is the sound of your own life returning to you. It is the energy that you used to spend managing their moods, now flowing back into your own veins. You have mastered the art of becoming the void. You have looked into the hunger of the beast and denied it. In doing so, you have ceased to be prey, and you have become the architect of your own reality. The beast has moved on, not because you fought it, but because you offered it nothing to eat. You have won by doing absolutely nothing at all. The return of color. We have arrived at the aftermath. The battle lines have shifted. Through the disciplined application of neutrality and the strategic withdrawal of your emotional currency, you have successfully starved the beast. The manipulator has moved on to easier hunting grounds, or has simply ceased their attempts to extract a reaction from you because the cost of their effort yielded no return. The silence you have cultivated is no longer a shield against an active attack, but a quiet space where the dust is finally settling. This brings us to the most critical and delicate phase of your journey. This is the segment where we discuss the return of color. There is a distinct risk inherent in the gray rock method that is rarely discussed in the initial stages of defense. The risk is that the mask becomes the face. When you spend weeks, months, or even years practicing the art of being uninteresting, you are training your mind to suppress its natural spark. You have taught yourself to bite your tongue, to stifle your laughter, and to hide your excitement. You have learned that sharing your joy provides ammunition, and that expressing your sorrow invites ridicule. To survive, you became a flat gray surface. But you were not born to be a stone. You were not designed to live a life devoid of vibrancy, passion, and vulnerability. The gray rock was a survival bunker, not a permanent residence. If you remain in that state of total suppression after the threat has receded, you risk drifting into a state of emotional numbness where safety is the only metric of a good life. Mere safety is not the same as flourishing. The ultimate victory over a manipulator is not just that they failed to destroy you, but that they failed to change who you are at your core. The return of color is the conscious, intentional process of dismantling the bunker. It is the realization that while the walls kept the enemy out, they also kept the sunlight out. Now that the enemy has retreated, you must step back into the light. This does not mean you drop your guard entirely or indiscriminately. You do not simply tear down the fortress and leave the gates wide open. Instead, you install a door. You hold the key. You decide who enters and who remains on the outside, staring at the cold stone walls. This phase requires a calibration of your social and emotional sensors. You have spent so long equating vulnerability with danger that your nervous system may interpret a safe interaction as a threat. When a trusted friend asks how you are doing, your instinct might be to give the standard gray answer. I am fine. Everything is normal. Nothing new to report. This is the muscle memory of defense. You must override this instinct with conscious effort. You must remind yourself that this person standing before you is not the hunter. They do not feed on your drama. They are not looking for a lever to pull. You begin to reintroduce the colors of your personality one shade at a time. It starts with opinion. The manipulator taught you that having an opinion was a trap, so you stopped having them. Now you practice stating a preference. You choose the restaurant. You express a dislike for a movie. You articulate a desire. These seem like small, insignificant acts, but they are the foundational brushstrokes of a restored identity. You are signaling to yourself and to the world that you exist as a distinct entity with your own mind and your own will. Next comes the reintroduction of joy. Manipulators often target what you love because that is where you are most vulnerable. If you loved painting, they mocked your art. If you loved a specific genre of music, they made you turn it off. Consequently, you may have hidden your passions in the deepest vault of your internal sanctuary. It is time to bring them back up to the surface. You engage in your hobbies not in secret, but openly. You allow yourself to feel excitement without the immediate reflex to check the room for disapproval. You learn that joy does not need to be defended, it only needs to be felt. However, this return to vibrancy is accompanied by a new and powerful wisdom. You now possess the ability to toggle between the gray rock and the vibrant soul. This is the mastery of reaction. You are no longer a victim of your own emotions, spilling them out for anyone to trample. You are the curator of your emotional gallery. When you encounter the manipulator again, or perhaps a new person who shows the early red flags of toxicity, you do not panic. You do not feel the old surge of adrenaline or the desperate need to explain yourself. You simply switch off the lights in the gallery. You present the gray rock. You become the boring, unreactive surface. You deny them the fuel they seek, but the moment they turn away, you flip the switch. You turn back to your trusted circle and you shine. This creates a profound duality in your life, which is not a fracture, but a strategic integration. To the toxic element, you are a black and white photograph, grainy and indistinct. To the people who earn your trust, you are a high-definition film full of sound and color. The manipulator will eventually convince themselves that you are simply a dull person. They will believe their own narrative that you lack depth. Let them believe it. Their assessment of you is irrelevant. You know the truth. You know that your depth is reserved for those who know how to swim, not for those who want to drown you. The return of color also heals the cynicism that can accumulate during a long conflict. It is easy to come out of a psychological war believing that everyone is a potential enemy, that every question is an interrogation, and that every kindness is a transactional hook. If you stay in the gray, you will live in a cold and lonely world. By actively practicing the return of vulnerability in safe spaces, you retrain your brain to trust again. You validate the reality that good will exists. You prove to yourself that human connection is not inherently dangerous, only connection with predators is dangerous. As you become comfortable with this duality, you will notice a physical change. The tension that you carried in your shoulders and your jaw begins to dissipate. The hypervigilance that kept your eyes darting around the room softens into a relaxed awareness. You sleep better because your mind is not constantly rehearsing defense strategies for conversations that haven't happened yet. The energy that was being consumed by the maintenance of your shields is now available for creation and growth. This is the ultimate revenge, although we do not call it revenge because that implies you are doing it for them. We call it restoration. The manipulator sought to hollow you out, to turn you into a mere extension of their needs, a mirror that only reflected them. By returning to color, you shatter that mirror. You become opaque. You become solid. You become real. This journey from the theater of conflict to the starvation of the beast, and finally to this restoration, is a process of reclaiming your sovereignty. You have learned the physics of emotional energy. You understand that your reaction is a commodity, and you have become a miser with it when dealing with those who would rob you. But with those who enrich you, you are generous. You are no longer the prey running in the open field. You are no longer the gray rock hiding in the dirt. You are the architect of your own experience. You have walked through the void, and you have carried your own light through the darkness. The silence is over. The gray fog lifts. What remains is you, vivid and unrepentant, living a life that is entirely your own. The quiet victory. The quiet victory is not a thunderous triumph or a public vindication. It arrives as a subtle shift in the atmosphere. You have mastered the art of becoming uninteresting. By consistently denying the manipulator the emotional fuel they crave, you have broken the cycle through sheer attrition. The drama starves, the conflict fades, the predator simply loses interest and moves on to a more reactive target. This is not magic. It is the predictable result of firm psychological boundaries. You have reclaimed your mental space not by fighting the storm, but by becoming the stone that the storm breaks against. Your energy returns to you. The color comes back to your life because you are no longer painting everything in the shades of someone else's chaos. You stand firm in your own reality. This is the ultimate freedom. You did not change them. You did not fix them. You simply ceased to play their game. In that silence, you find your life waiting for you exactly where you left it, ready to be lived on your own terms.